Welcome to Undiet Your Coaching Podcast. I'm Stephanie Dodier, clinical nutritionist and creator of the Going to Beyond the Food method, and I'm on a mission to help all coaches undiet their life and their coaching business. Ready? Let's do this. Welcome back, my dear colleagues. I am very excited about this episode. I actually, just behind the scene, this is my third time recording this podcast episode. I wasn't satisfied with the first two versions. This is a topic that we're going to talk about healthism. And this is a topic that there's very little content out in the world talking about healthism, talking about coaching healthism. There's literally no resource out there. So I wanted to present you this information in the most concise way possible because there's not a lot of resource, but also I am fully aware that this topic could be and will be triggering to many people listening this episode. Now, understanding that the audience for this podcast is health professional, mental health, physical health, wellness, coaches. There's a wide spectrum of people who are helping other people with the concept of health broadly. And from my experience of coaching health professional, many of us are in the stages of our own inner growth through healthism. And I know for me, that was about 4 or 5 years ago that I had to work through my belief system around health. And it's usually the last stages coming out of diet culture. So if you are one of those professionals whom is going to listen to this episode and is triggered with some of the information I'm going to share, I want to coach you a little bit before we get into this podcast. Being triggered, in my perspective, is good. Being triggered is a sign that there is something for you to look into this. That your cognitive brain may be refuting the information that's in front of you, but your higher self is signaling to you that there is something in this message that can benefit you. So it's kind of a tug of war in your brain and your nervous system. One part is offended, triggered, afraid, but the wisest part of you knows that there is something in there for you. So if you're being triggered, my coaching to you would be to stop the episode and practice compassion for yourself in any way, shape, or form that you know how to practice compassion. Coach yourself that listening to this episode is safe, that you recognize that you're being triggered, but it is safe for you to listen to this information. And you may have to re-listen to this a number of times, and that's totally okay. That's how I started my journey in liberating myself from healthism, is by being really, really offended the first few times, and then creating safety for myself to be offended, and kept seeking information on this topic, and kept seeing that when I was learning more and more about healthism, I felt a sense of comfort. I felt a sense of hope. I felt possibility for myself to stop the treadmill that I was on. So if you're there, I'm here with you, and I'm here to tell you that all that you will be experiencing listening to this episode is completely normal. So with that in mind, here's the landscape for the next, hopefully 30 minutes, but that could go longer. So we'll see by the end of the podcast how long this one is. We're going to go through what is healthism, how does it show up, and the parallel between healthism and fat phobia and diet culture, and what we can do as far as coaches, as far as professional, to help people with healthism. So let's get started. What the heck is Healthism? Healthism is just like any other ism. It is a system. It is a set of belief put in place by people in power around, in the case of Healthism, around a specific set of ideas around health. It is in the exact same framework as racism, sizeism, feminism. It's a system to uphold power around a certain line of thinking, in this case, around health. It's a belief system. That belief system sees health as a property, a thing, and a responsibility of the individual. And it ranks the health status of an individual and the effort that the individual partake in order to achieve this health status. It puts health above anything else. It's a moral duty. It's a personal responsibility. You must pursue health before your happiness. Or another way of thinking about that, you're only supposed to enjoy yourself or enjoy life once you've achieved a certain level of health. And in this lineage of thinking, Healthism, it ignores completely the impact of poverty, the impact of oppression, the impact of trauma, past experience, history, abuse, environment, traffic, access to clean water. It completely ignores this and says anybody and everybody has access to the element that allows an individual to be healthy. I want you to take a moment and in your brain, bring up the information, the awareness that you have around fat phobia or racism, and put it in parallel to this. There is a common thread around all system of oppressions and sets of belief that support people in power is the sense of not enough. That we think about not enough around your body size, not enough around the color of your skin, not enough around the age that you are. There's predetermined factors and standard, and unless you are part of this very small percentage of folks that can achieve these standards, if you're not part of that, you are not enough. The system of oppression attack one of the essential elements to all human, which is our sense of self, our sense of worth, our what I call in Undiet Your Life, our enoughness. It attacks our self-concept. It shakes us to the core and disrupt our ability to see and believe in our enoughness, in our sense of worth, in our self-esteem. And it does that by making the target impossible to access. And it maintains us in that belief system. It's one thing to put the belief out there, but it maintains us collectively in that belief system by making it a personal responsibility, a moral duty. So not only something is wrong with you in the case of Healthism because of your health status, but something is wrong with you morally because you are unhealthy, or Healthism consider you're not doing enough. You're not depriving yourself enough. You're not controlling yourself enough to achieve this health status. And this is how fat phobia and Healthism create so much suffering in ourselves, in our client, because it judges our sense of belonging into the world according to our health, and it makes us feel less than. And long term, what happens with individuals, and I've seen that over and over again, and I'll make a parallel to business in just a moment here, because we have been caught in this treadmill running for the size of our body, for our health status, we come to believe our entire belief system beyond health and body size becomes about us not being enough in our whole life. So as professional, when we come to the world of creating a business, for those of you who have a business, it's different when you work for someone else, but when you have your business and you have to create incomes and revenue and marketing, we approach business from a place of not enoughness. We start our business from believing that we are not enough. And then that puts us on the next treadmill of running to create a business from a place of not enough. And then, as I said in prior episode, there's another system of oppressive business culture out there that says, well, you're not enough because you should be making 6-figure in 6 months, right? You should be able to make, now the new one is like 7-figure. You should be able to make $1 million in a year. What's wrong with you? That means you're not just trying hard enough. You see again the pattern? And when we don't coach, when we don't heal, when we don't recover from healthism, from diet culture, at the thought and the belief level, we white knuckle ourselves into new behavior. We apply willpower and discipline into creating new behavior instead of working at the thought and the belief. We don't impact our belief system in other area of our life. So it's a constant battle. We may have, quote unquote, cleaned up sizeism in our life, but then unbeknown to us, we're operating at the health from this place of not enough. We're operating our business from a place of not enough. This is what I see. I'm one of the veteran, if you want to say it this way, like I'm the one who, among other people, I'm not the only one, but there's a few of us who have been in this non-diet industry for a number of years. And this is patterns that I see over and over again. I saw it in myself, and I see it in all of my students. And that's why I drastically changed the way that I coach the average population in On Diet Your Life, and then my student in the non-diet mentorship program to start right off the bat at the thought and the belief level. Because when you do that, you solve, you heal every other aspect of your life. So, healthism also leads, I just want to put this out there before we get into the how does it show up, to internalize healthism, which means that we become our own oppressor. So just like fat phobia is the system of judging people based on their size, which impacts also our medical system. So there's weight stigma. There's external people judging us for our size. The same thing happened in healthism. We have the medical system. We go to the doctor who assess us based on numbers and percentage and blood test result. That is external healthism. But what is the most powerful at the individual level is not external healthism. It's the internal oppression, internalized healthism, where we oppress ourselves every day, I want to say every minute of our life, by self-monitoring, self-criticizing, self-judging, self-labeling ourselves towards the health standard that we believe we should be able to achieve. And this is the most impactful side or aspect of healthism, is internalized healthism, because we are with ourselves every minute of the day. It's a lot of suffering to go to a doctor office and being told that we should be healthier and we're not healthier and something is wrong with us. That happens, I don't know, once every 2 months or once every month. But the impact of ourselves beating ourselves up every day has a much greater impact, because it happens every minute of every day. And this is where learning how to manage our mind is essential for you if you are in the world of healthism, if you are trap in healthism and or for your client. Okay, so how does healthism show up? It's very simply, it's the exact same pattern of behavior as people who want to lose weight, people that are judging the size of their body. I think all of us are very aware through our own lived experience or our client that it's all about controlling food. It's all about exercise, the right type of exercise. Now, on top of everything else with healthism, there's this whole world of wellness culture. And then there's the detoxes and the shakes and the supplements and the different technique of treatment, right? There's energy-based treatment, there's physical treatments, there is shamanic treatment, there is herbal treatment. Like the spectrum of solution offered to get someone to quote unquote optimum health, I think is much greater and wider than weight loss. Weight loss is more pervasive and it's been present in our awareness for a longer amount of time, where healthism is fairly recent. I think, without having the stats in front of me, I think it's about 50 years old that the world of wellness culture, end of the 60s and beginning of the 70s, that this philosophy of optimum health came to be present. And with the evolution of the science of nutrition, it just compounded the broader awareness around optimum health. And diet culture is towards the late 1800s. So both are terrible. Both are a devastating system. They just operate slightly differently. But from our client perspective, it is the same pattern of behavior. It's obsession with being healthy, low sense of self-worth, of self-concept, and then deprivation. Just like I talked about body fantasy, if you haven't listened to the last episode where I talk about the concept of body fantasy, you can think about healthism in the same way. We have health fantasies. When I am healthy enough, then I'll enjoy life. I won't have any pain. Physical pain. I won't have any symptoms. I'll be clear, clean. I'll be able to do whatever I want. So it's this sense of holding back, living our life or their life for our client until they achieve the standards. Now, there's a special thread here that I want to talk about for us as practitioners. When I do presentation or I talk to groups of health professionals and I explain what healthism is, people get triggered. And when people are open enough to have a conversation with me, one of the things that always comes out is, well, Stephanie, if people don't quote unquote have to be healthy, what is our role then? Why do we exist? Like, I'm a nutritionist. And that was my line of thought at the beginning of learning about healthism. Like, I'm a nutritionist, and okay, I can give food advice, and I get this whole, I'm not going to do it for weight loss. But the only thing I have left is giving advice on nutrition for quote unquote health. If I can't do that, then what is my role? How am I going to live? How am I going to earn money? So it's a double threat for health practitioners because they are themselves, quote unquote, stuck in healthism. They are personally living under the belief system of healthism. And then it's a threat to their livelihood because if they don't partake in healthism, then they won't be working. So if that's what's going on through your mind right now, I just want to say totally normal. But your job is more than that. This is why I'm so passionate about moving people from consulting to coaching, because that's what your role becomes in a world where not you, but the system plays people into guilt, into accessing your service. Like, you have to see a nutritionist. If you can't figure it out on your own to be healthy with food, go see a specialist and pay a specialist to tell you what to eat. Instead of being a consultant and telling people what to eat and make them feel guilty because they're not quote unquote eating healthy, it's about you coaching them to change their belief system at the thought and the belief level so they can be calm and neutral when it comes to health, and then engage, if they choose to, in health promoting behavior, not from a place of guilt, but from a place of love, from a place of choice, and then help them create natural health behavior instead of willpower and disciplined health behavior. So I thought what I would do next is share with you an inside look into the brain of people who are caught up in healthism. So I'm going to share a bunch of thoughts that are coming from my client, 2 different clients that are beginning their work and liberating themselves from healthism. So as I'm sharing these thoughts, these are probably thoughts that you're experiencing yourself or that you're hearing your client experience. I'm just going to read them and then we'll move on what to do next. So here's some of those thoughts. I am weak if I am sick. I should be doing everything within my power to be as healthy as possible. If I eat well enough, I can be healthy. If I take the right supplement, I can be healthy. If I can afford the right treatment, I can be healthy. Which comes with this parallel thought. I am not worthy if I don't contribute enough financially to my family because it's expensive to pursue health when you're stuck in healthism. And then there's a guilt and shame associated that comes along that to the repercussion on the family. I am not worthy if I am not healthy enough. My worth is based on what other people think of me. So if I have symptoms that are visible, people will judge me. I can't accept my health as is. It's irresponsible. Accepting my health means I won't do anything about my health. I can't accept myself because I need to be my best self. My best self has optimized her health. It's impossible for me to be my best self if I am not as healthy as I can be. I need to be the best that I can be for my partner and my family. My family deserves more of me. I am not happy with myself. These are the thoughts that you're having. These are the thoughts that your clients are having. And yes, it's part of our job, quote unquote, to expose these thoughts. Because these thoughts and these beliefs are what runs our day-to-day life, are what creates the need of willpower and discipline. This is why we have to rely on accountability check and checklists to do all the things to be healthy. That's why we have the yo-yo effect. We're on the bandwagon of health and we're not on the bandwagon of health. We're in and we're out. The suffering, the depression, the anxiety, the panic attack are not created by the lack of meditation. That's bullshit. They're created by us thinking these thoughts day in and day out. Now, I want to address one more thing from a practitioner perspective. That's another stage of healing for practitioner. First of all, being aware of healthism, being aware how it shows up into ourselves. And then the last phase is guilt. Guilt of us perpetuating healthism with our client, with our former client and our current client. And I want to say to you, it's totally normal that you were perpetuating healthism. Because all of us were trained, educated, certified, graduated from the system of healthism. There is not one school, one degree, one certification program that I know of that does not co-opt Healthism. We were trained, taught, indoctrinated into Healthism as practitioners and coaches. So it's totally normal that we went out into the world and perpetuated Healthism. But here's what we can do. Today you know what Healthism is. You know how it shows up into your own self. Now your work, before you go out and share this message with the world and start teaching it to your client, is to liberate yourself. Because you can only take your client as far as you've taken yourself. That's why a great number of my students in all of my professional program are coming to me to liberate themselves from Healthism, because that's the last stage of liberation for them. So how do we help and coach people through Healthism? The only path to coach people through liberating themselves with Healthism is at the thought and the belief level. If your coaching does not include thoughts and belief, you will not be able to impact people and liberate them or liberate yourself from Healthism, because that's where the game is played. Healthism is a system of beliefs, just like diet culture. So you have to work at the thought and the belief level to expose first what is currently running, what the belief, what your beliefs are, your client beliefs are, and expose them and show yourself and show your client the result of these thoughts and these beliefs. How does that make you feel? What action, what reality is present in your life because of these thoughts and beliefs? And then offer new beliefs, insert new facts. Like, it's a choice. You don't have to pursue health. Health is not a moral responsibility. It's not a personal responsibility. There's only a small percentage of what impacts your health that you're responsible for, right? The social determinant of health. I'm not going to have time to cover that today. There's an interview on this podcast feed. I think it's around between podcast 50 and 55 with a colleague, Dana Sturdivant. We did an entire 90-minute podcast on Healthism and the social determinant of health. So I would highly recommend that you go back. But if you're not aware of social determinant, but it's vitally important that you understand that as a practitioner, so you can teach your client what really impacts their health, and what their personal responsibility is only 15% of what impacts their health. So as you coach your client, you expose the thoughts and the belief, you insert new information in there, and then you help them reestablish their sense of self, their enoughness, before you even dig into health and health behavior. That is the ground base. And then we move into consent. They need to make the decision, not you. We need to train them. We need to present to them their sense of power. It's amazing. Every time that I coach a professional and I help them see what's happening in their life, and then I stop. I just did that yesterday again. That's why it's coming back to my mind. And we were looking at why she was constantly listening to podcasts and was never able to be alone with herself, why she needed to be busy. And then I stopped. I said, this is what's happening. Now, what is it that you want to do? And she was stunned. She's like, and as she started crying, she's like, what do you mean? I don't have to change. I don't have to fix myself. I'm like, no. Well, now you know the information. You know what's happening. You know your thoughts, your beliefs. You know where your anxiety is coming from. You know why you're compulsively listening to podcasts. You know all of this. You can stay like this. Totally. You don't have to change it. You could say, oh, this is what it is. I don't have the energy to change that. I'm just going to continue. You don't have to. It's so fascinating when you offer someone choice, when you present consent, the power that it has. And that's the second stage of coaching healthism, is consent. People have to consent to change their thoughts and their belief, being aware if they don't, this is what's going to happen. And for some people, they don't have the energy or the desire to change. They're like, okay, well, this is what it is. I'm going to stay here. Most people, when they understand what caused their suffering, they want to change. But they're doing it from them choosing to change, not being told they have to. You see the magnificent difference here. The last thing we want as anti-oppression practitioner, if you call yourself a non-diet practitioner, you do not want to replicate the system of oppression in your own coaching with your client by not offering them a choice and consensual relationship to their choice. Okay, I'm over 30 minutes. I'm going to bring myself back. So consent is the second change. And obviously you can tell I'm very passionate about that. And then the third stage is helping them believe the new belief. Like, my health is not a moral duty. My health doesn't mean anything about me. I can accept my health. I can accept my pain. I can accept my suffering, right? We have to help them create new belief. And then we have to hold their hand while they're learning to believe the new belief. And that is the vast majority of your coaching program, is helping people back to their new belief. We have 3 stages when we create coaching program. We have the learn, build, and have phase. And the build and have phase are the longest phase because we have to reprogram the neural pathway in our brain to believe these new thoughts and beliefs so we can produce a natural action instead of a willpower and self-discipline action. So that's how we coach Healthism. If something that you need help with, or you need to learn how to coach from this lens and this perspective, the path to do that is a non-diet mentorship program. The link will be in the show note. This is how I work with professionals like you to teach the coaching framework, to do your personal work, and to go out into the world and share your wisdom and your lived experience with the rest of the world. I hope this podcast was helpful for you and it served you. I love you, and I'll be with you verbally on the next podcast episode. Ready to shed diet culture from your practice and help more clients do the same? Awesome. We've got 3 resources to get you started. Simply go to stephaniedodier.com/pro series, all in one word, and access our 3 free training classes that are currently available. We also have a free PDF guide to intuitive eating, an article about the non-diet approach. We also offer a variety of paid programs throughout the year to support you in your journey to undiet your coaching practice. Join us at stephaniedodier.com/pro series, and I'll see you on the other side.